In the far corners of the galaxy, stories travel faster than ships. And one story had been spreading for years, whispered in the dark halls of alien stations and carried in the coded channels of smugglers and soldiers. They called it the Ghost, a warship that should not exist, a ship that left no trail, no heat, no signal, yet appeared in battles and changed the outcome in seconds. Some aliens swore they had seen it, a shadow moving across the stars, larger than a battleship but silent as a drifting rock. They claimed it would appear, strike once, and then vanish. As if it had never been there, others laughed, saying it was only a story to scare young recruits, a legend born from fear and defeat. But the whispers never stopped. They grew, they spread, and even the most powerful admirals listened when the word Ghost was spoken. On a human patrol ship called Orion's Edge, Captain Rin Calder sat in the command chair, his boots resting lightly on the deck. He was young for a captain, sharp, confident, and proud of his record. He had heard the rumors many times, usually over drinks in spaceport bars. To him, it was just another ghost story in a galaxy full of them. Ghost Warship, he muttered to his first officer, Lieutenant Kara Voss, who was scanning the latest fleet reports. If such a thing existed, we'd have seen it by now. Kara gave a small smile. Maybe it's not meant for us to see, sir, she replied, her voice calm, almost teasing. Maybe it only shows itself when it wants to. That night, the Orion's Edge drifted through a quiet sector. No major colonies, no trade routes, just empty stars and the hum of the ship's engines. The crew was relaxed, some playing cards. In the mess, others watching old Earth films. Calder leaned back in his chair, half bored, till something strange appeared on the radar. It wasn't a signal exactly, more like a faint shadow, an outline of something massive. Moving slowly behind them, Calder frowned. Kara, are we picking up a ship on our tail? She shook her head, tapping the controls. No transponder, no heat, no energy signature, nothing. Calder stared at the screen. Then what is that shape? The shadow kept following, silent, unchanging, a dark mark against the starlight. Calder ordered the long-range scanners to full power. The readings came back blank, as if they were scanning empty space. But his eyes told him something was there. Something big. Hours passed. The shadow never closed the distance, never fell back. It simply stayed there, like it was watching. By midnight ship time, even the crew began to whisper. Some glancing nervously at the rear viewports. Calder tried to stay calm, but the air on the bridge felt heavier, colder. Suddenly, the comms flickered. Not the usual static of bad reception, but a sharp crackle, followed by a voice, deep, smooth, and without origin. Captain Rin Calder, it said. His name spoken perfectly, without any accent. Calder's eyes widened. Identify yourself, he demanded, but the voice ignored the question. We have been watching you, it continued. Your decisions, your victories, your losses, all recorded, all judged. Calder's heart beat faster. He glanced at Kara, who shook her head. No source, no trace. The voice spoke again. You have been chosen. Calder's hand tightened on the armrest. Chosen for what? He asked. The voice was silent for a moment, and then it said 5 words that sent a chill through every person on the bridge: to command the Ghost. Before Calder could speak again, the radar shadow shifted, moving with impossible speed. In seconds, a shape emerged from the black. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Orion's Edge. Its surface smooth and black like glass. Faint lines of blue light ran across its hull, pulsing slowly like veins carrying energy. No engines burned, no weapons were visible, yet it radiated a quiet power that made every human on the bridge freeze. The crew didn't breathe, didn't speak. Even Kara's confident face paled. Calder stood slowly, stepping closer to the forward viewport. The ship was close enough now that he could see details, markings carved into its hull in an ancient human language he barely recognized. It was old, older than the expansion wars, older than most known history, and yet it looked untouched. The voice returned, softer this time. We choose our captain, it said again. You will take us into the beautiful Ghost Strike, and in return, we will give you victory beyond anything you have known. Calder looked at the silent giant before him. His His mind racing, the stories were true, the ghost was real, and now it was here. Asking him to step aboard, the bridge was silent, every eye on him, waiting outside. The ghost hung in the void, patient, unblinking, like a predator that had found its prey. In that moment, Calder knew one thing: his life had just changed forever. The Ghost Warship did not move like other ships. It drifted closer without turning, without engines flaring, as if the space around it bent to carry it forward. The Orion's Edge stood still, her crew frozen between awe and fear. The blue lines on the Ghost's hull pulsed slower, like the heartbeat of a giant creature deciding whether to strike or to speak. Captain Calder forced himself to breathe. "Open a visual channel," he ordered. Now, Kara's eyes told him she doubted it would work. The screen flickered once, then twice, before filling with an image so clear, it was as if the figure was standing right there on their bridge. It was a man, or something that looked like a man. Tall, pale, dressed in an ancient human navy coat that no one wore anymore. The coat shimmered faintly, as though not quite real. His eyes glowed faint blue, the same color as the lines on the ship outside. His voice came again, low and steady. "Captain Rin Calder, you have been found worthy." Calder stepped forward, his voice firm, though his stomach tightened. "What do you want from me?" he asked. The figure tilted his head. "Not from you," he said. "With you." He stepped aside, and the image shifted, showing a view of the ghost's interior. It was vast corridors stretching into mist. Walls lined with panels of black, metal, and soft blue light. "Not a single crew member in sight," Kara whispered. "There's no one on board." But the figure turned as if he had heard her. "There are more than you think," he said. "They do not breathe, they do not sleep. But they remember." Calder's jaw tightened. "And this beautiful ghost strike? What is it?" he asked. The figure's expression didn't change. "It is a mission only we can complete. The Council of the Threx Dominion is gathering in 3 days, guarded by their most feared dreadnought. No fleet can reach it unseen, but we can, and we will, if you take the helm." The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Threx Dominion was one of the oldest alien powers, their fleets unmatched, their security impenetrable. For decades, no one had dared strike their home system. Calder weighed the silence, then spoke. "And if I refuse?" The figure's eyes dimmed slightly. "Then we wait for another." "But we have been waiting a long time, Captain Calder, and we are growing impatient outside." The ghost shifted again, this time turning ever so slightly, revealing the size of its hull, dark and endless. Calder realized he was staring at a warship that could swallow his own vessel whole, yet it moved without sound. Without any sign of effort, finally, Calder said, "If I take this mission, what happens to my crew?" The figure's reply was quick. "They will remain here unharmed. You will go alone. The ghost needs only you." Kara stepped forward. "Sir, this could be a trap," she whispered. But Calder kept his eyes on the figure. "And when the mission's done?" he asked. The figure's answer was calm, almost gentle. "When it is done, you will understand the ghost, and the ghost will understand you." Something in those words struck deeper than he expected. It was not just a ship offering a mission. It was a living thing, choosing a captain. The image vanished without warning, and outside, the ghost extended a bridge of light, a shimmering pathway stretching from its side to the Orion's Edge. It looked solid, yet it was made of energy, faint particles drifting from it like dust. In sunlight, Calder glanced once at Kara, her lips pressed tight, then stepped toward the airlock. The silence on the bridge was heavy, every crew member watching as their captain approached the glowing bridge. The moment he set foot on it, a wave of cold air wrapped around him. The hum of his own ship faded, and the endless stars stretched beneath his boots as if he were walking in space itself. Step by step, he crossed the ghost's hull, looming larger, the faint blue veins pulsing in rhythm with something he could almost feel in his chest. When he reached the airlock, it opened without a sound, revealing darkness within, only broken by the same soft blue light. The air inside was cool and dry, with a faint metallic taste. The corridors were high and wide, built for no human he had ever known. As he walked, the walls seemed to shift slightly, like they were adjusting to him. Then, without warning, figures began to appear, human-shaped, dressed in different uniforms from different centuries. Some wore old Earth naval coats, others armor. From the Mars Defense Corps, some he recognized from history books, but their skin was pale, their eyes glowing faintly blue. They moved without sound, and though they looked at him, none spoke. Finally, he reached what could only be the bridge, a massive chamber with a single chair in the center. The figure from before was there, now more solid. "Welcome aboard, Captain." "Calder," he said, "this is your ship now, until the mission is done." Calder looked around, feeling the strange hum through the deck beneath his feet. Outside the forward viewport, the stars seemed closer, sharper. The figure stepped aside, revealing a console that lit up as Calder approached. "Your hands," the figure said. And Calder placed them on the controls. The ghost systems came alive, lights racing across the walls, the hum deepening, and Calder felt it. The ship was alive, it was aware, and it had accepted him. In that moment, he understood this was no ordinary command. This was a bond, and the beautiful ghost strike had just begun. The first thing Calder noticed about the ghost was the sound, or rather the lack of it. Most ships hummed with the vibration of engines, the faint hiss of air systems, the subtle clicks of machinery, but the ghost was silent, too silent, as if it existed in a place where sound itself was reluctant to enter. The glowing veins in the walls shifted as he walked, their blue light pulsing in slow rhythm, sometimes brighter, sometimes dimmer, and he realized they were reacting to him. The corridors were wide enough for a battle mech to march through, yet they bent slightly at corners, curving in ways that felt unnatural, as though the ship was shaping itself to guide him. The figure who had greeted him earlier walked ahead, his long coat trailing like smoke. "I am called Wraith," he said without turning.
"Oh.
"Though I have worn other names before, the ghost has always kept one captain at a time. Now, it is you." Calder's voice echoed faintly as he asked, "Who built this ship?" Wraith stopped, his glowing eyes fixed on the far wall. "Humans," he said, "but not the humans you know. The ghost was born before the expansion, before the colonies on Mars or Titan, before Earth united under one flag. It was built in secret, to fight a war your history books will never tell you about." Calder frowned. "Why keep it secret?" Wraith stepped closer, placing his hand on the wall. The blue veins flared brighter, because the war never ended. "Captain, only the enemies changed." They reached a chamber unlike any Calder had seen before. It was vast, with walls that shifted like liquid metal. In the center hung a sphere of light, swirling with images, battles, fleets, alien worlds. Ships that looked like nothing Calder had ever imagined. "The ghost remembers everything," Wraith said. "Every captain, every strike, every death. Dies." As Calder stared at the shifting images, he saw something strange. The crew, or what looked like crew. Men and women in uniforms from across centuries, standing silently along the walls. They didn't move, didn't blink, yet he felt their attention on him. "Are they real?" he asked. "They were," Wraith replied. "These are echoes. Holographic imprints left by those who served and died here. Their thoughts, their instincts, their strategies, all part of the ghost now. They will advise you, guide you, and sometimes test you." One of the echoes stepped forward, a woman in an old Earth flight suit, her hair tied back, her face sharp and cold. "This one," Wraith said, "was Captain Ilara Miles. She once destroyed an entire pirate armada without firing a shot. You will feel her hand when you steer." Another stepped forward, a soldier in battered armor, helmet under his arm, and this Wraith continued, is Commander Holt, who held the line at Vrak Station for 5 days against 3 enemy fleets. You will hear his voice when you fight. Calder felt a strange weight in his chest. The idea that every decision he made might be influenced by the ghosts of people long dead. "And the beautiful ghost strike?" he asked. Wraith's gaze hardened. "It is the reason you are here." They left the chamber and moved deeper into the ship, passing doors that opened without touch, revealing rooms filled with weapons. Calder didn't recognize cannons with barrels that seemed to bend light, drones that hovered without sound, racks of torpedoes shaped like black shards of glass. "This ship doesn't just hide," Calder murmured. "It hunts." Wraith's voice was almost a whisper. "It is the perfect predator. It can phase through shields. Silence alarms appear where no ship should be, and disappear before the enemy knows what happened. The Threx dreadnought will not see us until we are inside its skin." Calder stopped walking. Inside. Wraith turned, a faint smile on his pale face. "You'll see," he said, and for the first time, Calder felt a flicker of unease. They reached the bridge, unlike any bridge Calder had known. It had no crew stations, no rows of consoles. Only a single chair in the center, and walls that displayed a full 360-degree view of the stars. The moment Calder stepped inside, the stars shifted subtly, as though the ship had noticed him when he sat in the chair. A pulse of light ran through the floor and up into the walls. The blue veins brightened, and Calder's mind filled with images, the route to the Threx system, the position of patrols, the weak points in their defenses. It wasn't like reading a map. It was like seeing through the ship's own eyes. "You understand now?" Wraith said softly. "The Ghost does not give orders. It shares them. You are not just its captain. You are part of it." Calder clenched the armrests. The connection was intoxicating, like holding the galaxy in his hands. But beneath it was something else, a faint sense of hunger. Wraith's voice became cold. "Once you begin the beautiful Ghost strike, there is no turning back, Captain. The ship will bind to you. You will never truly leave it." Calder looked out at the endless stars, feeling the heartbeat of the Ghost echo in his own chest, and he realized he was already halfway bound. The mission hadn't even started, and yet he knew the Ghost was already his. And he was already the Ghost's. The Ghost moved unlike any ship Calder had ever commanded. There was no rumble of engines, no flicker of thrusters. It simply glided forward as if space itself was carrying it. The walls around him shifted in faint ripples, the blue veins glowing faintly, like the slow breathing of some giant living thing from the bridge. Calder saw the stars twist and bend. The Ghost was cloaking, not with a shield or a field, but by folding light itself. Making them invisible to any scanner, Wraith stood at the edge of the bridge, watching the display of alien patrol routes. "We will be past their first perimeter in less than 2 hours," he said, his voice steady, calm. "They will never know we were here." Calder leaned back in the captain's chair, feeling that strange link to the ship pulsing through his hands. It was like steering with instinct rather than controls. He didn't tell the ship to turn. He thought it, and it turned. He didn't order the weapons to arm. They armed when he felt ready. As the Ghost drifted deeper into enemy territory, the walls began to whisper. Faint voices in the air, some sharp, some low, all speaking at once. Calder recognized them, the echoes of past captains and crew. Their advice mixing with battle warnings. "Don't trust the quiet," one said. "Shields at 30% on your left flank." Another murmured, "Patrol ahead will turn in 40 seconds. A third warned. He spoke without thinking, acknowledged. And the Ghost shifted course, sliding past the Threx patrol ship so close he could see the glow of its engine ports. Yet they didn't react. The Ghost was invisible to their eyes, invisible to their machines, the deeper they went. The thicker the enemy presence became, fleets of smaller ships moved in precise patterns. Massive carriers loomed in the dark, but each time they came close, the Ghost slipped between shadows, taking routes no map could show. Calder realized they weren't just navigating space, they were moving through the blind spots in the enemy's mind. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Then Wraith spoke again. "We are nearing the border of the core zone. From here on, their detection systems are less predictable." Calder's hands tightened on the armrests, meaning... Wraith's pale eyes met his. "Meaning, they sometimes see things they should not?" The Ghost slowed. Drifting like a phantom through a graveyard of old ships, broken hulks floating in silence, Calder's eyes narrowed. "This is a kill zone," Wraith nodded, a reminder to intruders and a feeding ground for their sensors. Calder felt the ship's pulse quicken. It wasn't fear, it was focus. The blue veins in the walls flared, and a wave of cold air swept the bridge. Ahead, a web of faint red lines shimmered across the void. Invisible to the naked eye, but clear to the Ghost's senses. It was a detection grid. Wraith looked at him now. "Captain, let the Ghost lead." Calder closed his eyes. Letting the connection pull him, the ship tilted, slid, turned in ways that made no sense to normal spaceflight, weaving between the sensor beams like a shadow in wind. Not one alarm was triggered as they emerged past the grid. The whispers in the walls grew louder, sharper. Enemy scout, 30 degrees. Shield rotation detected. Missile lock in progress. Calder's eyes snapped open. His hands tightened. And the Ghost spun into a sudden dive, vanishing into the shadow of an asteroid just as a Threx missile flashed past. "They didn't see us," Calder said, his voice almost a whisper. Wraith smiled faintly. "They will not. Not until it is too late." They moved again, faster now, the stars ahead thickening into the glow of the Threx core system. Calder could see it, the giant dreadnought that guarded the Council, its hull bristling with weapons. Shields layered like armor plates, patrol ships swarming around it like insects. For a moment, Calder felt the weight of what they were about to do. One wrong move, and they'd be vaporized before getting close. But the Ghost's heartbeat stayed steady. The walls hummed low. And Wraith spoke in that calm tone again. "This is why we exist. Captain, for strikes they believe impossible." The Threx dreadnought filled the Ghost's view. Floating fortress of black metal and crimson light, its armor plates thicker than most ships. Shields shimmering like liquid fire, weapons bristled from every surface, yet none of them turned toward the Ghost. To their sensors, the warship simply didn't exist. Calder's hands rested on the armrests. Feeling the steady pulse of the Ghost through the metal, the ship's heartbeat was slow, patient. It was hunting. Wraith stood beside him, his pale eyes fixed on the massive target. "This is where most captains fail," he said, his voice low. "They grow impatient, but the Ghost never rushes." The walls around them darkened until only the view of the dreadnought remained. Blue veins pulsed brighter, faster, and the whispers of the long-dead captains filled the air. "Aim for the bridge, cut the nerve lines, strike." At the heart, their voices overlapped, not in chaos, but in unity. Calder closed his eyes. Letting their words blend into his thoughts, the Ghost moved forward slowly. Drifting between the enemy's patrol ships, close enough that Calder could see their hull markings. Still no alarm. Still no reaction. Then, the Ghost shifted, phasing closer until the dreadnought's hull filled the entire viewport. Calder could see the seams in the armor, the heat shimmer from the engines. Wraith's voice cut through the silence. "We are inside the skin now." The Ghost weapons came online without a sound, the thunderous cannons of normal warships, but strange black launchers that seemed to drink in the light. Sleek drones slid from hidden bays, gliding away like shadows peeling off a wall. Calder felt their movements as if they were extensions of his own hands. The first drone slipped along the dreadnought's hull, planting a dark shard that vanished from sight. Then another, and another, within moments. A web of invisible marks covered the enemy's most vital systems. Wraith watched him closely. "When you give the order, these will sing." Calder took a deep breath. "Sing," he said. The Ghost pulsed once, and every shard ignited at the same moment. Not an explosion of light and fire, but in a burst of silence. Systems went dark. Weapons powered down. The dreadnought's shields collapsed like water draining away. The great warship drifted helpless in its own guarded space, but the Ghost didn't stop. It phased again, passing through the outer hull without breaking it. Calder's view shifted instantly. One moment, the cold black of space. The next, the glowing interior of the dreadnought's command deck. Alien officers stared at consoles that now showed only darkness, their faces twisting in confusion. Before they could speak, the Ghost unleashed its second strike. Black energy lances erupted silently, slicing through control stations, cutting power lines, severing communication. Not a single explosion, no alarms, just quiet destruction one by one. The alien crew slumped, unconscious, as if the ship itself had stolen their will to fight. Calder felt the Ghost's satisfaction in his chest. The strike was perfect, elegant. It wasn't about killing, it was about ending the battle before it began. Wraith's voice was almost proud. "This is the beautiful Ghost strike." Captain, a kill without blood. A war won before the first shot is fired. The Ghost withdrew, slipping back through the dreadnought's hull, like smoke through air. In the viewport, the massive warship now drifted powerless. Its patrols scattering in panic, their formations breaking. Calder guided the Ghost upward, vanishing into the cold shadow of a nearby asteroid before any enemy ship could guess where the attack had come from. Within minutes, chaos spread through. The Threx fleet, without the dreadnought's command, their lines faltered. Their ships turned on each other in confusion, desperate to find the phantom that had struck them. But there was nothing to see, nothing to chase. Calder sat back, the adrenaline slowly fading. "Is it over?" he asked, Wraith's pale face softened into a faint smile. "For them, yes. For you, no." The Ghost never stops moving. The whispers in the walls quieted, the blue veins dimming to their usual slow pulse. Calder could feel the ship settling. As though it had exhaled after holding its breath, he glanced at Wraith. "How many times has the Ghost done this?" Wraith looked out at the drifting dreadnought. "Too many for you to count, Captain, and each time." The galaxy grows more afraid. Calder's gaze returned to the dark battlefield, the enemy's largest ship, touched from the outside, yet hollowed within. Now little more than a floating tomb, he realized this was more than victory. It was a message, one the Threx Dominion would never forget. The Ghost turned away, fading into the black, leaving no trace it had ever been there. Calder knew that. Somewhere in the Threx high command, they would be replaying the moment their pride was stolen from them, and they would whisper the name the galaxy feared, Ghost. The Ghost drifted through the void, far from the chaos it had left behind. Calder sat in the captain's chair, his eyes fixed on the endless dark ahead. The adrenaline of the beautiful Ghost strike had faded, replaced by a heavy, lingering silence. The whispers of the dead crew had gone quiet, almost as if they were. Watching him now instead of guiding him, Wraith stood at the edge of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. "You did well, Captain Calder," he said, in that calm, steady tone. "The Threx dreadnought will not recover, and their fleet will remember this loss for centuries." Calder nodded slowly. "It was almost too easy," he admitted, his voice low, Wraith's pale eyes fixed on him. "Easy is an illusion, Captain. You command the Ghost now, and with that command comes a price." Calder leaned forward slightly. "You've mentioned this before? What is it exactly?" Instead of answering, Wraith gestured for him to follow. They left the bridge. Walking through the shifting corridors, the blue veins in the walls dimming with each step, as though leading them somewhere deeper into the ship. Calder noticed the air was colder here, the light softer, the voices of the echoes whispering faintly. But their words were too low to understand. They entered a chamber unlike the others. It was small, circular, with walls covered in faint glowing patterns like constellations. In the center stood a single black pedestal. Resting on it was a strange, translucent cube. Inside the cube swirled faint blue light, slow and steady. "This," Wraith said, stepping closer, "is the heart of the Ghost." Calder stared at it. "It's alive," he said without thinking. Wraith's lips curled faintly. "In a way, yes. It is the mind and memory of the ship. Every captain's thoughts, every battle, every choice, stored here." Calder's gaze didn't leave the cube and the price. Wraith's voice lowered. "Each captain becomes part of the heart when their time ends. Not in name, not in memory. In essence, your thoughts, your instincts, even your fears will remain here, bound to the Ghost forever." Calder took a slow step back. "You're saying I'll become part of the ship?" Wraith nodded once. "Yes, Captain. The Ghost chooses only those willing to give everything, and in return it never forgets them, for a moment." Calder felt a tightness in his chest, the thought of never truly leaving, of existing only as a whisper in the walls was both terrifying and strangely comforting. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Wraith's gaze hardened. "Then you will leave now, and the Ghost will find another. But you have already bonded with it, and breaking that bond will break you." The whispers in the walls grew louder, clearer, voices from different centuries speaking his name, some calm, some sharp. "Stay, lead, do not turn away." The blue veins in the walls brightened. Pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat, Calder exhaled slowly, So this is why you never told me in. Detail before, Wraith's eyes softened slightly. Some truths cannot be understood until the bond is formed, he said. You feel it now, don't you? The pull, and he did. Deep inside, Calder felt the ghost calling to him, not with words, but with a sense of belonging, of being exactly where he was meant to be. They left the chamber, but the thought stayed with him. As they walked, the echoes appeared in the halls. Captain Alara Miles, Commander Holt, and others he didn't recognize. Their eyes glowing faint blue, they didn't speak, but he felt their approval. Their acceptance. Back on the bridge, Calder looked out at the stars. If I'm to be part of this ship one day, I want to know everything about it, he said. Wraith nodded slowly. Then you will, Captain. But knowledge comes with battles. And battles come with a cost. Every strike we make ripples through the galaxy. Every enemy we humiliate will plot revenge, and the ghost will keep striking until there is no one left who dares to face it. Calder leaned back, the hum of the ghost steady in his chest. He thought of his crew on the Orion's edge, waiting for him. Unaware of how much he had already changed, he thought of the Threx, and the way fear would spread through their ranks. He thought of the whispers, and how one day his own voice might join them. The blue veins in the walls pulsed once more, and Calder realized something. The ghost wasn't just a weapon, it was a legacy, a shadow that would outlive every captain. It chose, and now it had chosen him. The ghost drifted at the edge of a dying star system, the light from the red sun painting its black hull in faint crimson. Calder sat in the captain's chair, one hand resting on the armrest, the other lightly touching the console. The hum of the ship was steady, calm, like a predator at rest. It had been 3 weeks since the beautiful ghost strike. In that time, the Threx Dominion had not sent another fleet toward human space. Instead, they pulled back their forces, tightened their borders, and whispered in fear about the phantom ship that had gutted their pride without firing a single visible shot. Wraith stood to Calder's left, silent, watching the tactical display. No enemy ships were near. No threats on the scanner, yet Calder knew the ghost was never truly idle. It was always listening, always watching. The blue veins in the walls pulsed, softly, carrying the slow heartbeat of a living machine. Word of the ghost's return had spread far beyond the Threx. Smugglers spoke of it in hidden bars. Traders claimed to have seen it pass without a sound. Enemy fleets altered their patrol routes, leaving wide gaps where they believed the ghost might appear. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, the name had already become a warning. If the ghost finds you, it's already too late. Calder felt the weight of that reputation. It wasn't just fear, it was power. The kind of power no fleet or weapon could match. We're not just a warship, he said quietly. We're a shadow hanging over the galaxy. Wraith glanced at him, and shadows, Captain, are harder to fight than armies. A faint signal crackled through the comms, a coded message on a frequency few knew existed. Calder listened as a voice, tight with panic, spoke to any human vessel. We are under attack. Unknown raiders. Coordinates transmitting. Calder glanced at Wraith, who gave a slow nod. The ghost didn't need orders. It turned smoothly, sliding into the black like a fish into deep water. The stars around them stretched, bent, and then snapped back as they reappeared in a distant sector. The enemy ships were there, a swarm of angular black craft circling a crippled freighter. Calder felt the ghost's focus sharpen. The hum deepened, the blue veins brightened. No survivors. One of the whispers said, "Strike fast, leave." Nothing, another urged. Calder's grip tightened. "Disable, not destroy," he said firmly. And the ghost obeyed. They appeared among the raiders without warning. One moment empty space, the next a black giant in their midst. Drones spilled from hidden bays, slicing through engines. Cutting power, the raiders scattered in blind panic, their weapons useless against something they couldn't track. Within minutes, the fight was over. The freighter safe, the raiders drifting powerless. Calder sat back, his breathing steady. "That's how it should be," he murmured. Wraith's eyes narrowed slightly. "Mercy is a choice. Captain, one that not every captain before you made. Calder met his gaze, then let them remember. That too, the rescued freighter sent thanks. But Calder knew they would never fully understand what had saved them. It would tell the story in whispers, and the legend of the Ghost would grow. Not just as a killer, but as something unpredictable. Something that might spare you or not. Days passed. And the Ghost moved from system to system, never staying long. Calder learned to hear the subtle changes in the ship's heartbeat, to understand the whispers in the walls, to sense when the echoes of past captains approved or disapproved of his decisions. It was no longer just a vessel. It was a partner. One evening cycle, Calder stood alone in the observation deck, looking out at the starfield's wraith approached. His voice softer than usual. You've adapted quickly, faster than most. Calder gave a faint smile. Maybe I was always meant to be here. Wraith's expression didn't change, but his eyes seemed to hold a rare glint of respect. A warning chime broke the moment. An alien war council had just declared that if the Ghost ever entered their territory, it would be destroyed on sight. Calder almost laughed. They can't destroy what they can't find. Wraith's lips curled faintly. Let them try, Captain. The hunt is part of the game. And so the Ghost sailed on. A phantom in the endless dark, slipping between star systems like a shadow on the wind. No fleet could catch it. No fortress could stop it. In the quiet corridors, the whispers of past captains spoke to Calder, guiding him, testing him, and sometimes simply watching. He knew his time as flesh and blood would end one day, and when it did, his voice would join theirs. Another whisper in the dark halls of the ship, another mind in the heart of the Ghost. But until that day came, he would command the most feared vessel in the galaxy. The Ghost Warship, which should not exist, now ruled the shadows, and through those shadows, humanity ruled the fear of the stars.